Another thing I'd like to do is add an area rug in here, kind of thrown down and at an angle. So let's take a look at how we could use an alpha channel. And over here in the Unity materials, we'll use the cutout rendering mode to create an area rug here. Alright, so let's go back to Blender and give that a shot. I'll go ahead and take this television and let's move it over to the second layer. So I'll just press M and click the second layer here, and that puts it with all of the other objects here. And I'll just begin adding to this as I go. So in a free layer, let's go ahead and create a polygon plane here, and I'll scale it up just a bit so it kind of fits the kind of rug I want to use. I'm going to scale it in the Y just a bit and scale it in the X a little like this. Something like that. Now currently this is just one polygon. If I hit the Tab key and go into edit mode, you can see that it's just this one polygon, and that's all it is. When creating game assets, of course the idea is to try and do it with as few polygons as possible. The more polygons in the level, the more resources are used, and that can slow the game down. However, for something like this, I've found that objects with just one face in Unity can cause problems with seeing the texture on the object. So sometimes if you just have one polygon, you can't see the texture in Unity. So what I'll do is just hit the W key and subdivide it. So we have now 4 polygons, and that won't kill us. That won't drag the game down or anything. So now that we have that, I will go ahead and press Ctrl A and click Scale to apply the transforms there. And now let's go over to the UV editing screen layout. I will tab into edit mode, hit U and unwrap, and there is our UV map. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and export out a UV map. I'll just export out a map at, say, 2048 here. And I'll put this in my textures folder, and let's go ahead and call this rug. I'll create a new folder for it as well. And let's just call this rug_UVs. There we go. And now let's go take a look at it in Photoshop. I'll go to File and Open to open that up in Photoshop. Find it in my Textures folder, and here it is. So there is our UV map. I'll go ahead and open up a texture I found already. Here it is. So I'm going to use this one here for the rug. Now it has an alpha channel on it, so here, let me show you what I mean. I'll open it up, and you can see here that we can see through this part of the image. I'll go ahead and select it all and copy it and bring it over here and paste it here. Now it turns out this is pretty small, so this one may not work. I'm going to have to scale it up, and I don't really like to do that. But let's give it a try. I'm going to scale this up, because the more you scale things up, the more you lose resolution in the image. But let's give it a try. So I'm going to place this here over the UV map, over the UV island. I'll drag it down below so we can see it underneath the UV wires. So I'll turn off the UVs, and I'll export it out as a color map here in the rug folder. I'll call it rug_C for color map. And let's go ahead and export that object out to Unity and see how it looks in Unity. So back in Blender, I'll tab back into object mode, and I'll create a new material. I'll call this rug, and I'll also change the name of the object and call it rug as well, so they match, so we can keep track of them in Unity. Let's also deal with the scale now. Let me go back to the default view. I'll bring back the layer with all of the furniture in it, and let's shrink this down so it will fit into the room a little better. Maybe something like this. Alright, so I'll go ahead and make sure the scale is applied again with Control A scale. And now let's export it out. File, Export, FBX, Selected Object. Let's put it in the Assets folder, and we'll call this Rug. And there it goes. All right, let's go to Unity. There's our object. Let's bring in that texture. I'll go to a Finder, and let's bring that in. Here it is, rug_C. I'll bring that in. And now, if we take the rug object and drag it in, here it is. It's sitting right on the same plane as the floor, and therefore we're getting this strange kind of flickering, and that's Z-fighting. Since they're both on top of each other, they're actually fighting each other as to which one is going to be seen on top. We don't want that, so let's raise this up just a bit. And then let's take it and put it over here, say like that. All right. Now in the material for the rug, I'll take that to pure white. I'll come into the textures folder and drag this into the albedo. And now we can see it there. And that looks pretty good, except for the areas around the rug. What let's do is change the rendering mode from opaque to cutout. And now that makes the outside of the rug clear, so it's just the shape of the rug. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's take that and kind of drag it over here. I'll maybe rotate it a bit like this so it just kind of looks like it's been haphazardly placed. I like to put things kind of at a strange angle because humans do that. It's very easy in a computer program like Blender or Unity to put things on axis. So we could, begin to kind of turn things a bit, make them a little bit off axis so that they don't seem quite as computer made. We're giving our objects just a little bit of life here. Like the place has been lived in and pushed around and things aren't quite lined up correctly. And I kind of like that. So we've got our rug in here set up, but I think it needs a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth to it. If we run the game, let's take a look at how this looks. Whoa, I'm upside down. If we come over here and take a look at this, it looks pretty good, but I think we can give it a little bit of depth with something like a normal map. Let's take a look at how we might do that. If we go back into Photoshop, we can generate a normal map from here. So this layer, let's call the color map. And if I duplicate this with Alt, click, and drag, I can make this one say the normal map. And with this selected, I'll come up here to Filter, 3D, and Generate Normal Map. So if I click that, it brings up this dialog window, and you can see the preview of it here. You can invert it, invert the height here. So if I click that, you can see that these things now are pushed out. I can switch here to view it from object to say cube, and we can take a look at it on a flat surface. I'll click here to zoom in. Yeah, something like that. That looks pretty good. So let's say we go with that. I'll click OK, and there is our normal map. Now, we didn't get any information behind here. What I need to do is really put a black layer behind this, like I have for other texture maps. So let me undo that, and I'll create a new black layer behind here with the paint bucket. And now I'll take these two layers, copy them, move them up, and these two I'll collapse down with Control or Command E, and we'll call this the normal map. And now let's try that again. I'll go to Filter, 3D, and Generate Normal Map. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so I'll say OK, and there is our normal map. Now let's export this out as well. I'll go to File, Export, Export As, and let's call this rug underscore in for normal map. There we go. And let's go into Unity and bring it in there. So I'll bring up a Finder window, grab that normal map, drag it in, and now if I select that rug and drag that normal map into the normal map slot of the rug material, and of course choose Fix Now to tag it as a normal map. Now if we zoom in, we should be able to see a little bit more of a texture to it, a little bit more depth. Let's go ahead and run the game and see what we can see. So now if we come over here and take a look at it, yeah, we can see a little bit more texture to it. We can also adjust the intensity of the normal map by clicking and dragging here and increasing this. You can see we can really get some crazy texture going on there. I don't think we need quite that much. We could take it up to say 3 maybe and give that a try. And I'll run the game again and let's take a look. Yeah, you can see a little bit more depth to it there. That's pretty good. If we wanted to do that for other textures as well, say we wanted a little bit more depth and texture to our floor here, well, we can go back to our Photoshop file of the floor texture and we can generate a normal map from that. So in here in the walls floor folder, I've got that wood floor here. That's just that seamless texture there. So let's go take a look at creating a normal map from this. So here in Photoshop, I've gone ahead and brought that up. I'm going to double click on this layer over here and change it to a layer from a background. And now I can take this layer and generate a normal map from this. So if I come up here to Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map, you can see it here. I'll switch to, say, a cube. And that doesn't look too bad. However, I think I'd like to invert it. I think that the part or the seams between the boards should be pushed in. So I'm going to click Invert here. Yeah, so those seams should be pushed in. I'll click OK. And there's our normal map. And I'll export it out. And now if we select that object, in our material, we can take that floor normal map, drag it into the normal slot, and click Fix Now to tag it as a normal map. Now, if we come down here and take a look at it, we can see just a little bit. You can see in here, we're getting a little bit of texture to that, a little bit of bump. Now, it's already tiling itself just like the color map, because we have the tiling at 10 here. So the normal map is following along with that tiling. We can increase the normal map a bit if we want. That may be a bit too much. Well, let's bring it down to say 2. See how that works. That even may be a bit too much as well, but let's see. Let's run the game. See how it looks. Yeah, that may be a bit too much. So let's maybe take that back down to 1 again. I'll go ahead and put that at 1, and let's run the game one more time. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of bump there in the floor, and that's good. That's what we want. So as we go and continue on with other objects in the scene, we can create normal maps in Photoshop based off of our color maps and bring them in here to Unity and apply them to our materials.